Hey there, and welcome to today's video. 'Tis the season and all that, right? We are now in December, and I actually had the idea to build this quite a while back, but I hadn't done it just because I thought it's not close enough to Christmas yet and all that, but now I think that it is. Today, we are going to be building a house that is basically presents. So you did hear that right. This is basically going to be presents, and the idea behind it is the same idea as when I built a giant dining room table, where basically the house is inside the present. Now, without taking into consideration what the outside actually ended up looking like, I think that the inside is quite a good layout. I wouldn't mind living in this house at all. I would actually love living in a house like this. I think the layout and the way that it is unconsciously what I would want in a house. It is a pretty big kitchen, it is its own dining room, its own living room, it's pretty spacious, but it's still closed off. Even though I tend to build a lot of houses that are more on the modern side, I think personally I like a more closed off floor plan. Though I am kind of biased on it, especially when it comes to cooking and all that, since on a more closed off layout, you don't have all the smells from the kitchen going all over the house. But again, that's just me, that's what I think, and I digress. The house, as I mentioned, is just presents. I was thinking about how to actually pull this off since, as I mentioned, I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I thought I wanted to have different types of presents. The main core of the house, for example, is a square present, and then there's a wing that is more of a small rectangular box, and one that's diagonal and stuff like that. So it doesn't really make sense on how these presents would be that close to each other, but I think the visual is there and that's what I really wanted out of it. I have no idea why I decided on this, but the inside is a lot more traditional. It's not as modern as my typical houses. But since this was a Christmas house, I feel like typically when you're looking at those Hallmark movies, for example, you tend to get a more traditional home. And that house has a giant living room where the Christmas tree is and all that. And I thought, you know what? Let's go with that and let's try to do this layout and this floor plan. I actually ended up going for it too because I felt like the floor plan in particular was actually going to work out a lot better if it was a more traditional home compared to a more modern home. Not that it wouldn't have been impossible, but the outside was so colorful as it is that when I tend to do modern homes, not saying that this is the way all modern homes are, just saying that this is the way I end up building them, it tends to be more black and white. Just look at Tuesday's video, for example. It's basically a black and white house that I ended up adding some color to some walls, but even the floors are all white concrete. That's the way I tend to do my more modern houses at the very least. With that in mind, and the fact that a lot of the holiday stuff pack items actually suit a more traditional house, I decided to go for a more traditional outtake. I kind of struggled with the layout a bit. I kid you not. I actually had some time at work where I wasn't doing much of anything, so I decided to actually work on the layout on Excel. I kid you not, I was building a floor plan on Excel for a house on Sims. So that just goes to show you how much I wanted to build this house. It ended up being quite different from what I had actually envisioned in that floor plan though. And a lot of that reason is I did go with a grid pattern and everything, but once you start actually building it, it ends up being quite different. And the spacing and how big the items are, even if you have a general idea, it never works out quite as you thought it would, especially when it came to window placement and door placement, which is something that I don't think I took so much into consideration when I was working on that layout. I did want windows and I wanted to get it in as many windows as I could, but at the same time, I didn't want any of them to be at the front of the house, since the whole plan of this is to make it look like it's a present from the outside. So the windows are mostly on the sides and the back, and that changed the whole floor plan for me. The kitchen, for example, was going to be where the living room actually ended up being in this floor plan. And once I started going through the floor plan, I realized that that was where most of the windows were going to be. And I wanted the door for outside to be there as well, which technically there is a yard, there just isn't much in it. Since I wanted to showcase a giant Christmas tree and a giant fireplace to make it kind of mimic what ends up being on the inside as well. So there isn't much, but what you can do with this house, if you don't want to have just giant presents all over it, is you could actually get rid of everything on the outside, recolor the house, and you already have a layout where you will be able to have a backyard. So it's actually quite multi-purpose if you ask me. But I digress. Once I started seeing the layout and I realized where the windows were and everything, I decided to have the living room where most of the windows were instead of trying to work those giant windows in with the kitchen. I was quite pleased with the layout after all, and even upstairs, it's quite funny if you ask me, since you come up the stairs and already you have like 5 or 6 doors, and that's basically all the upstairs is. And there is a reason for that. I actually wanted to make as many rooms as I could in this house. I believe initially it was going to be around 5 bedrooms. One of them was going to be a nursery, but at some point I decided against that and I actually made that into a laundry room. I do not have the laundry pack, so I didn't actually put in any laundry stuff in there. But you could very easily just take out the few decorations that I put in there and just put a washer and a dryer. There's already a hamper in there and you're golden. You have your laundry upstairs and everything. And that is actually something that I would personally love in a house. I would love to have laundry right where the bedrooms are. A lot of people are against that. I'm not really sure why. They mention the noise that the laundry would make and all that, but at the same time, I don't know many people that would leave laundry going overnight. Most people would just do the laundry during the day, from what I know, but that is my opinion and that is what I would want in a house and what I would want to see. Now, you might have realized that I cut off a lot of the bathroom stuff. That's mainly because a lot of it is just copy and paste. And there was also the downstairs bathroom that was giving me a lot of trouble, and I ended up realizing that it was because the platforms that I used for some of the presents actually wanted to take over that room, you can call it that, and they weren't letting the bathroom function properly. But that won't be an issue at all in this house. I play tested everything works perfectly. So as I mentioned, if you really wanted to, you could just take this house, recolor everything, and have it work as a regular home. But anyways, I think we're coming close to the end of the video, and I just wanted to say happy holidays for whatever it is that you celebrate. I personally celebrate Christmas, and it is what I'm most comfortable with when it comes to building for this occasion. But let me know which holidays you celebrate. Let me know what you thought of this house, and let me know what you'd like me to try out next. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great weekend.